Fractal champion down here. Anyways, all right, here we go, guys. Have you ever thought about hunting for and farming for fractal relics yourself? But do you not have any friends like me? And I'm just kidding. But do you not have any friends who wants to do fractal farming for relics? Then this is your solution. This is what might save the day for you. Basically, what we've got going on here, and what I'm going to be showing you here today, is a video of me and, well, me doing a fractal. So both of these characters are me. That's me on the same computer, basically, just on two different accounts. That's more or less how we're gonna go about this. Is that one of the fastest fractals possible to do is the Aetherblade fractal. And so to take advantage of the speed, we basically need just a few different things. We need someone who can skip, which is why I have the Mesmer, and we need someone who can do DPS, lots of DPS in a solo scenario. That's why I got the Guardian. The scenario we've got here, though, is, let me show you here real quick. Actually, this is right at the end. I've got my Mesmer here it's a base account, I believe, actually. Doesn't have Path of Fire, doesn't have Heart of Thorns. It's not required to have Chronomancer whatsoever to do this. It is a positive thing to have Chronomancer. It will only help you out because you'll see that the quickness that you can add, even in a solo scenario, to your power DPS class is still really great. But what we've got running here on my other tune, or on my Mesmer at the moment, is just some Giver's Gear, because it gives the concentration. It adds a little bit of extra boon duration. But the most important thing that we need here is toughness. Because seemingly, and quite surprisingly, some of the enemies in this fractal at the very end have a toughness, let's call it affinity, because it's not exactly a tank situation. They just prefer to attack players with high toughness. And that's going to basically give us a tank, an unknowing tank, an unplayed tank. And it's going to help us out greatly. So what I've got is just Rune of Rebirth to give extra healing, concentration, and to ignore the lethal blow and gain barrier. So it's gonna make our tank survive just a little bit longer, even though she's doing nothing except for standing still. But I will show you. We'll get to that. Everything else here is givers. On my weapons, silver doubloon, and I believe I have I have another silver doubloon. That's not how it works, I believe. Actually, you should just get the gold doubloon as well. But we are on the 67%. So if I were to use food for this character, it would be perfect. I forget to actually use food in this run, but there's that. Anyways, we never swap to the other weapon anyways. Everything else also just regular stuff. Traits, as they go, it's basically just the normal traits that you would take for a tank Chronomancer, but we're not actually we don't actually have Chronomancers. Feel free to take whatever might actually help you a little bit. Mastery level 2, exactly. It is a brand spanking new account. All there is to it is a level 80 and some extra gear over. On my Guardian, however, I believe I have that just before, actually. On my Guardian, here we go. On my Guardian, we're running Dragon Hunter. Basic DPS spec for Guardian, Dragon Hunter. With just Berserker stuff all the way through. It's a basic thing. You can find it on most build sites. However, I will be running the Sword and the Focus, because it adds Personal Fury, it adds a little bit of extra blindness, and it adds a bit of extra defense with the Focus. Builds out of the way. Let's actually get into it. basically what's going to happen here is I'm going to just let it play, and I'm going to narrate it, because the full run takes anywhere between 7 and 9 minutes, depending on how fast you are. I believe this run takes about 7 minutes from I enter till I get the chest. And this is a way to farm two things. It's a way to farm relics, preferably for your main account, that because you can't really use the relics on the old account anyways. But it's also to get fractal encryption boxes, because those are not account bound, and you get them both on. I love how I do a million waves here. Right, there we go. Because those encryptions are not account bound, and you can send them from your other account to your main account and basically just get double the loot in that sense. So it's a minor gold income, but and also a minor relic income. Right, we're entering Fractal difficulty level scale 14, Aetherblade. Right. With these two, we have the option to easily skip a lot of things. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to place the portal with my Mesmer, run in, and easily, because of the underwater speeds with my Mesmer, I can easily pass through on the floor. Are we... Why? Don't lag right now. There we go. With all the underwater skills, we can easily pass through the water and all of the bombs, open the portal, and get both accounts onto the other side with only the portal. Use the Harpy Feather in to get these enemies, because they're really tricky. You pull them together, you want to blind them immediately and pull off every DPS, your best DPS rotation, just to get them out of the way. Just to get those out of the way, because they can easily snowball everything. If one of them hits you with a knockback, with a huge banner DPS bomb, it's going to ruin the run. Which is exactly why, let me go back here for a second, which is exactly why I open up, I stealth in, so that they don't get out of a situation that I don't want them to be in. I start up the block, because the block is also a great burst and a protection field, so to speak. But most importantly, it's about keeping them CC'd and blinded. So I pull them in, blind them immediately, dunk, they never get anything off. And then I pull off the extra block, as you can see. Just to be safe, because I'm going to GG. I can use anything. Cooldowns don't matter. Because right as they die, blinded, nobody ever touched me, I GG with that character. That allows me to then use my Mesmer to do the next bit solo. Because this is just a skip phase. Skip through the floor, activate the panel, and burst off the Condi. I can go through the floor there again and easily clear that condition. And then GG with that character. Both characters are now dead. That means full reset on everything. I go to my Guardian, because I don't really need my Mesmer at this point. For the next phase, it's just DPS. So we switch between each account all the time. Now, arguably, this is the most tricky part, because this phase is basically just DPS. We get a series of enemies, different enemies, and they all spawn in a sequence, basically. So this one will always spawn in the second one. You can, depending on, oh, nice target there. Depending on the situation, you kind of want to move with the flow for the most part. But there is an X factor to this entire thing. The X factor is the Aetherblade Grenadier. In the fourth pull, which is after this one, in the fourth pull, which is now, these two will spawn. But on the opposite side, there is a chance that, and it does it in this run, there's a chance that the Aetherblade Grenadier will spawn. And that can completely ruin your run if you do not deal with that guy. Because he's ranged, he's going to bomb you, and there's nothing you can do. You can't blind him, you can barely block him. You want to take care of the Aetherblade Grenadier. Everything else is pretty predictable. But if you do not manage the Grenadier before this fifth phase, or this fifth wave spawns, you might as well just GG it and start it over in a fresh scent, or in a fresh moment. what's it called, at the spot just before. It all falls on that little phase on the fourth wave of enemies. But the rest of it is just keep them blinded, keep everyone blinded. With the sword and the focus and the great sword, you have 3 blinds available easily. And it's basically just about managing the enemies there. We go through this. It's easily just line of sighted. These can be a little bit annoying because they have the protective shield, but that's pretty manageable because they don't hit that crazily. We GG here after the phase. That means all of our cooldowns are reset for both of our characters. We go in, make sure that you res with your other account before you go in, or else that account is not going to get ported inside by Ellen. So I place the traps real quick with my first character. I get on this stack and I get ready to drop everything supportive on my Guardian before I start it. So I interact with it, I pop down my field, easily swap back, pull them in, and then everyone's blinded, everyone's protected. I have quickness on my main, and the other account is doing nothing. It's basically just a tap target, or not a tap target, an alt tap kind of situation. Now what might fuck you up here is the enemies on the side. The Grenadier here is a pain, absolute pain. You want to pull them in fast. You want to line of sight them. You want to get them out of the way in one way, shape, or form. But the most important thing to notice here, as you will notice, the boss Friss has an affinity for toughness, which means he is never going to hit you because he will always focus on the other account. If you don't stand in front of him, if you don't stand in between them, he will never hit you with his flamethrower. So you're free to deal with the other enemies. Now, also, each of these golems, all of these elite golems that are going to spawn, also have a toughness affinity. They will all try to go for your ult. So place your ult in a safe spot, and it will survive. If you have the toughness, if you have the giver stats, it will survive all the way until the end, even when the walls come tumbling down. So we get, oh, that was a little bit unfortunate. Now, this is crucial. Some time ago, they changed the way that the aggro mechanic worked for the elite Aether Blades. Basically, they changed it so that if every player is standing on boxes, they drop all aggro and they go invulnerable. So you see me jump up on a crate, and it goes invulnerable instantly because my alt account is also standing on a crate. You really want to watch out with that because it's gonna ruin everything. It's gonna just stick in an invulnerable phase for, I think it's like 10 seconds or something insane like that. And only when that dies will it swap, so to speak, will the next ones activate. You want to preferably pull them to crates. You preferably want to line of sight everything. So what you'll see here in a second is that these last 2 golems activate. I'm going to try to just jump down to get the aggro from all of those. Now, unfortunately, in this situation, one of the golems won't touch the ult for whatever reason. But that one golem just sticks to it. Usually you'll get 1 or 2 of those situations. It's 1 or 2 of the golems will always try to attack the ult account. But yeah, as I said, it's not a toughness tank situation, it's a toughness affinity thing. Because there's a huge likelihood that all of them will just stick to your ult because of the higher toughness. It's a weird aggro mechanic, I'll be perfectly honest. But basically, just kite them around, slowly deal with them, and the faster you get them down, the faster the fractal is over. That's the last phase. This has been, at this time, we are 6 minutes in. This run took 6 minutes. That was the 30th run for that the alt account. That means 6 minutes. This run, 2 accounts, Fractal Encryptions, and Fractal Relics. Easy solo farm. Rinse and repeat. It's pretty simple. It's a good way if you don't have any friends who wants to farm the relics with you. Now, the obvious question that most of you will ask is, how good of a relic farm is it? Well, it's not an amazing relic farm, because there's no amazing relic farm in this game anymore. The alternative is 42 or 96 farm. I believe those are the levels, where you do it with a group. The timing is just about the same, sometimes slightly slower, but you're relying on other people as well. The difference between the higher levels and this level is just about, if I'm not completely off my game here, it's just about 9 or 10 relics per run. That's it. That's it. We're looking at, with a tier 3, as we have here, the champion title. This is quite an old video. The champion title, the tier 3 attunement, we're getting 3 extra backs. That means 3 extra backs of 3s. So we're getting 9 relics just from the attunement and 7 from the fractal every 6 minutes. So if you are desperate for relics, this is your farm. Right. I hope that helped. I hope that was of interest to some of you guys, or an incentive to possibly look into getting an alt account. Because I can only recommend it. There are a lot of really interesting things that you can do with this. The way that I boot up 2 accounts is by using the app called DW2 Launch Buddy, which basically allows me to easily boot up 2 without going about doing any fancy tricks or linking the 2. It just boots up 2 clients and you play them separately. So there's no terms of service issues here. Just to point that out. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that little live guide here, and I'll hopefully do many more of these little funky guides and tips for you guys, because they're pretty fun and I really enjoy finding stuff like this. But yeah, thank you. And the wave is perfect.